So in the first video, we talked more about tissue sampling, timing, what to look for. The second video, we dove more into foliar feeding. And for this third video, I want to talk about some things that I look for, also a preventative versus a rescue treatment, and maybe some things to help you make that decision, because we all know during that preventative / rescue time frames, you know, what is the right choice. So join us in the video here and we'll go in a lot deeper. So after we get our tissue samples, we get that from the lab. We go over the numbers and maybe we see that something's out of whack. Okay, maybe our iron's really low, maybe our zinc's very low, maybe our sulfur's very low. Okay, whatever that nutrient is, you may be thinking to yourself, oh gosh dang, I got to get out there and solve that. Okay, one thing to look at, okay, and there's a lot of great charts and there's a lot of great resources, but look at your mobile nutrients. Okay, N, K, magnesium. These are all nutrients that are very mobile within the plant. Okay, can go from the older tissue to the newer tissue. So those are nutrients that, you know, you look at a rescue treatment could have a lot of justification, because that plant is able to take those nutrients and shoot it up to the plant. Okay, there's also immobile nutrients. So if we take a tissue sample, let's just say calcium's very low. Okay, calcium's a nutrient that works a lot better going through the root system. So we got to make sure that we do some more behind the scenes or due diligence before we sit here and say we just got to go out there and throw it on. One thing I always think of too is when we're talking about a preventative versus a rescue treatment. Okay, preventative, do we have the data to show us that more than likely it's going to be a problem? Okay, so do we traditionally are low in zinc at the V6 time frame? Or, you know, at V12, we know we're going to be lacking boron. Heck, maybe we're lacking boron all year long. Well, then that tells us that we can make an educated decision to put that nutrient on that plant at that time. But one thing is we got to look at the conditions of what's going on the next, you know, 10 to 14 days. You know, are we making applications to help reduce stress? Are we making applications to help get that nutrient up? Well, if we're living in drought conditions, okay, and we overstimulate that plant, we can actually create our plants to stress themselves out more. You're sending signals that, hey, I need to keep growing, I need to keep growing, when that plant really just needs to focus on its defensive systems. Now, is there foliar feeding packages that focus on stress mitigation and defense during those times? 100%, and that's a good play there. But if you're sitting there saying grow more with a heavy nitrogen or heavy potassium dosage, then maybe that plant overcompensates. And now you have yourself a plant that's actually going downhill faster because we're trying to push it too hard. So one thing I like looking at is, number one, how's our soil moisture? Okay. Number two, does it pass the eye test? And maybe, you know, I'm going to trail back. This should have been said in video 1, but since you joined me in this third video, I'm going to share it now. If a plant doesn't pass, I call it the eye test, or if it doesn't look healthy, okay, and you send a tissue sample in, okay, take that tissue sample with a grain of salt. Or also, if that plant is drought stressed, take that tissue sample with a grain of salt, because the reason why is if there's less water, there's more concentration of the nutrients in that tissue. So the plant may look like it's potassium deficient because of the drought conditions, but you send it to the tissue sample and it says your potassium levels are fine. Well, who's right? The plant that's all yellow, or is it the tissue sample? Well, of course, that plant, if it's showing the symptoms of potassium deficiency, it is potassium deficient. So that's just a little tidbit. Like I said, probably should have been on video 1, but just know if it doesn't pass the eye test, or if it looks sick, okay, go off of university information, go off of what they have. I mean, Ag PhD has a phenomenal app on plant relation or nutrient relationships, and that will point you in a great direction, okay? But going back to preventative versus rescue, okay, number one, having soil moisture. Number two, having the fertility for it as well. And that's to a point. So if we overstimulate phosphorus, but there's no phosphorus in the root system, okay, that plant could be searching for something it doesn't have. Now, we can make the argument all day long that, well, if we're able to stimulate the roots, we'll stimulate the biology will release the phosphorus that's tied up in the soil. I will never disagree with that. I will just say that's when it's probably important that we're going out there and doing a Haney test around that tassel time, seeing where our phosphorus levels are. Because if that Haney is showing us that we don't have phosphorus releasing, I mean, we can keep trying to pump it into the bugs, but if the bugs aren't cranking, then it's wasted dollars. So, and then finally, with foliar feeding, and one thing I forgot to mention in the second video, droplet size, okay? We want a mist. We want as much surface area covered with that substance. And like I said earlier, adding a carbon source really helps those nutrients go into that leaf tissue. So if it's a positive ion or a negative ion, the moment that carbon is attached to it, it makes it a neutral ion, which allows it to come through that leaf tissue more efficiently for the plant. So that's the series for foliar feeding and tissue sampling. We talked about the timings. We talked about some things of what not to do. We talked about foliar feedings, making sure the conditions are right, but then talked about nutrients. And maybe something just before you go, just some things that rattle in my head that what I look for. I look for nitrogen and potassium to be a 1-to-1 as much as possible. One thing I've noticed is that the R3 time frame, phosphorus crashes. So maybe that's an opportunity for a phosphorus application there, or maybe it's a source to sink going into the ear. When it comes to micronutrients, if I see deficiencies anywhere past that V10 time frame, I use that as an indicator for my future year applications that I put in furrow or a 2x2. If it's sulfur, I know I can change that fast. I mean, pretty much NPK, sulfur, and I would argue calcium, those 5 nutrients, we're able to correct that in season if we want to. So, thank you guys for joining me on this journey. I mean, we got so many videos on our YouTube channel, Singular Agronomics Podcast. We got our webpage. We got some products. I mean, we got carbon products that I mentioned, like for foliar feeding, adding a fulvic acid, sugars. Please check us out. Check out our blogs. Spend the next 5-10 minutes and see us for more. So thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you again.
Guys, thanks for watching the content so far. We've got a whole lot more on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Subscribe there. We put a ton of content on there that's useful and applicable information to help on your farms and day-to-day life. So go ahead, hop over there. If you want more information, check us out there.